purple shirts, take on the couch.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for lining up. Thank you all. In case you didn't know, I'm Oasis, the panel queen. Questions were submitted by email. They were chosen by Mr. Welker and his agent themselves. Therefore, we don't know who you are, but when Ian will call either your email name or your real name, jump up. And you will be allowed to read your question to Mr. Welker himself. And as the people who met him saw, you know, he makes eye contact, he smiles, he's fantastic. Well, we'll remove Abraham Lincoln's statue and toss it aside, and he'll sit on it.
Frank is one of the greatest voice actors of all time. I call him the King.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are in this room for one man. This man is a legend. This man, everyone knows who he is. He is one of the most fearsome Transformers of all time, truly needing no introduction. That Transformer being Wheelie. No, let's be honest here. He's Scooter from GoBots. We know that. But seriously though, Mr. Welker is a Hollywood voice god. He has done so many voices. We are here today for Megatron and tons of other Transformers. I'm not gonna go through them all. You know how it is. So I want everyone to get up on their feet and give Frank Welker a round of applause. Frank, come on out.
Wow. Well, first, let me say thank you to you guys. Toronto is awesome. You people are fantastic, and I've been so happy and welcomed at these cons. But today, when we were doing the signings, not one person didn't come by without saying, Frank, thank you for coming. Wow, thank you for letting me come. Thank you so much. Very, very nice people.
Thank you. Now, before we're gonna sit down and start with our questions that have been pre-submitted, I just have to do one quick piece of housekeeping. Our Make-A-Wish auction has raised over $11,000. And the silent auction ends immediately after this panel, so you can finish your bidding at 6 p.m. Thank you. Okay.
Excellent.
So Frank, do you want to have a seat?
Yes, of course. But not here. Oh, yes, of course. I was looking for that big cushy.
Yeah, thank you.
What did I tell you?
Okay.
See? Yes.
So, Frank, everyone is here because they love GoBots.
Well, no comment.
Okay, so why don't we get right to the questions? I'm just going to get them out of my pocket here. The first person who submitted a trio of questions, there is a Meesum. Is there a Meesum present? Okay, Meesum, come on up. Come on up to the mic.
Wow.
Don't stare into the light.
Okay, so the ones with X's next to them,
Okay.
those are the ones that have been selected. So go ahead and ask.
Okay. Hey, Frank.
Hey, how you doing?
Great. So, when you were told the Megatron character would not continue after Transformers the movie, at that time were you also aware that you would actually be voicing the new leader, Galvatron, after the movie?
Not really immediately. First of all, both Peter and I were a little shocked that we were sort of, and so after recovering from that, we still had sessions to do from the show.
Right.
And when Galvatron was introduced to the show, Wally Burr said, "Frank, we'd like you to try and get, close to Leonard Nimoy, do a little something if you want, but try and kind of capture what he was doing in the feature." So I did, and they went with what I had, and we kind of played with it a little bit, but mostly I was trying to do Leonard Nimoy. But I didn't know, at the end of the picture, it happened once we went back to working on G1 stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess, you've answered part of that. How was the transition for you from voicing Megatron to Galvatron?
I answered 2 questions, and I thought it was 1. I'm sorry. You know me, I'm sorry.
3rd question.
No. You gotta get half of that question at least.
Okay.
2nd question.
So how was the transition for you from going from Megatron to going to Galvatron, especially considering Galvatron was insane in season 3 in the show? How was that transition for you?
Well, actually, because now, like in the features, Galvatron is like really out there, and Megatron from the G1 was pretty much out there, as you were saying, in those segments. But Galvatron was more of a kind of an easier voice to do in the sense that there wasn't a lot of power to it, and so the transition really not that big a deal, honestly. I mean, like right now, the transitions are fun. For example, it's a fun challenge. I come to a convention and people really want to hear G1. So I do Megatron. I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons. All hail Megatron! Look out, Donald Trump! So then, transitioning into Transformers Prime, we wanted to change, and then the characters are now computer generated, so there's a lot of difference and a lot of subtleties in the mouths. So then we started getting into this guy. Megatron into this Megatron. I am Megatron, still leader of the Decepticons. And we got to transform into Galvatron. I am Galvatron, and I am also leader of the Decepticons. I'm just showing off.
By the way, thank you so much for your season 3 Galvatron voice. That really sold me. I didn't like Galvatron at the beginning because he wasn't Megatron, like a lot of people missing Megatron. I don't like his replacement, bring back Galvatron, but he brought so much life and so much. It wasn't just one thing, he was a bad guy, but it brought so much intrigue and interest into the character. Eventually he became my favorite character, and I just want to say thank you so much for that.
Cool, thank you.
And so, 3rd question. It is X.
I will get the hook.
Yes.
Wait a second.
That's right.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, all right, 3rd question.
He's up to 8.
Okay, last question though. One of your longest playing characters, actually we just discussed this before, your longest role that you've been playing all these years is in animation is Freddy from Scooby-Doo. Now, out of all your prominent Transformers voices you did, if you take all of them, the one that sounded the most closest to Freddy was Galvatron. I want to know, did you design that on purpose?
It's a little freaky, isn't it? Galvatron sounds like Fred from Scooby-Doo. Well, actually, because it was more of a natural voice and trying to get closer to Leonard, when I went to my voice, which is basically Fred, and it's a terrible thing, it's disgusting, I know, but my real voice is pretty much Freddy. So that again, the I guess you'd have to say the DNA is there, you know. So really, they all just kind of mix together. But yeah, I could see where that would be the case. Right? Would you do it for a Scooby snack?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Well, your real voice is Freddy, and your real voice is wonderful, and long live Galvatron.
Thank you. Thank you.
You say that it's Freddy, that's close to your real voice. All I've been hearing all day is Ray from Real Ghostbusters. That's all I've been hearing.
Well, you're actually right. Ray, Fred, Galvatron. There's some serious DNA happening there, yeah.
Fair enough. Sounds like a fun party.
Right, yeah.
Okay, the next question is from a Ken Baumgartner. All right, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Baumgartner? Baumgartner?
Baumgartner, yeah.
Okay. All right. So your question here.
Oh, good, because I
Just
can't
the
remember.
just the first one with the X on it.
First one?
First one. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. If there was a Mount Rushmore for voice actors, without a doubt, it would feature yourself, Mel Blanc, and June Foray. But who do you think would be that fourth head on the mountain?
Peter Cullen. That's very, very, very nice of you to say. But actually, I would probably, I'd have to go with that. I was going to try and be very diplomatic and very nice, but in all sincerity, there's a wonderful, 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 wonderful voice personality that we don't have anymore, Dawes Butler, who created so many incredible voices. And I feel like I'm a student of his, so I would have to say, Dawes, why don't you go up there in my place? But thank you all. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right. So the next.
Can you imagine that, though?
What's that?
Some folks are coming up, you know, they're driving all the way from San Francisco. I can't wait to see the mountain. How about you, dear? Yeah, George Washington and Lincoln and Frank Welker! That would be so frightening. He's really holy.
It'd be worse if they put my face on it.
No, and they do great things with glasses.
Okay. I also told Frank earlier if he didn't say Peter Cullen, the crowd might riot. So, okay.
Also, I got to tell you, for those of you who were at the photos signings and things, you remember Ian there at the table, who did a fabulous job going gray, black, blue, gold, brown, gold. No, gold, brown. Good choices of the print. Thank you.
Oh, shucks. I know my colors. All right, next up, Jonathan Boeto. All right. So, Jonathan, we've got these two questions with the X next to them.
So those are the ones I can ask?
Correct. Those two.
The ones about the cooking, the car, and the girls. No, man. We're not going to go into that tonight. You know, it's just it was a quick thing. It happened. I was a little disappointed in myself. But actually, yeah, there's two women.
That's what cupcake board is for.
Yes.
So Meesum kind of covered this a little bit, but when you started developing the voice of Galvatron for season 3, do you recall at what point it was decided to make him insane, and how did you decide to differentiate him from Megatron? What did you add to the character to change it up there?
You know, I think it just the intensity and trying to just buzz, you know, just use the buzz of the intensity, and try and get the voice up and a few octaves, whenever you get at that crazy, it kind of gets into the high things.
Yeah.
Like even with Megatron and I am Megatron. Sort of like, okay, I'll take out the trash.
And so leading to my next question, gotta say, the first time I found out that Megatron's voice is actually produced by a human larynx, I was just floored. I just assumed it was like a computer or something, and even when you were doing it in front of us right now, I thought, somebody was gonna come out of the curtain or something. It's like a magic act, but it's uncanny. Leading into that, it's so iconic and unprecedented in terms of its startlingly alien quality, right? Were there any other characters or actors that inspired you to create that guttural sound? Like, where did that come from?
Well, I have told the story before, but when I was trying to come up with a voice for Megatron, I had this deep voice that I played with, and it was actually started as an impression of Barry White. No, probably a lot of you don't know who Barry White is. He was the singer of Love, and he used to sound kind of, "You love me, baby. I want you, baby. I need you, baby." And it was such a big, powerful, funny voice to me, because I was just a kid going, "Oh, that guy is funny. He's scary too." But anyhow, it was really, so I loved that voice, and I started kind of fiddling with it. Yeah, and I used it also for Dr. Claw and for "I'll get you, Gadget, if it's the last thing I do, Gadget!" And then in a couple of other features, a Disney feature, The Cave of Wonders. "He who enters the Cave of Wonders, beware." And, but when I was trying to think of something different for Megatron, because I know that there's other actors who do low voices, Peter Cullen. Just
Who?
such a voice. Peter Cullen. I can't do him. I know he's doing me.
He is.
I
He did you last year.
I am working on him. Ronald. Terrible. But I will get him. Maybe not the soul, but enough to irritate him, I can guarantee. But there was a thing that I did that was actually, I called it my cave voice, and I see if I can do it for you. I'm trying to do like maybe 11 different sounds at the same time. So you go, "Hello, I am the Cave of Wonder. Where are you? Save me, Megatron." So I take that and put it with this. "I am Megatron, leader of the Decepticons." But the actual deep voice, that went to Soundwave, which was Barry White. "I am Soundwave. Talk in a monotone, and then add the electric on it, and you get Soundwave. But I like doing the voice of caves, and I am your leader." "Yes, my liege." I'm sorry, I'm getting carried away. I'm not answering your question.
That was amazing and terrifying. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, do we have a Bradford Ward in the house? Oh, here he comes.
I want everybody to please note the shirt that he's wearing. Can you see what he's got on? And could you point out to your dad and show what your dad is wearing? Awesome.
Spike and spark plug.
Spike and spark plug. That's cool, you guys.
Hello, Mr. Welker. My name is Bradford Ward, and I would like to ask you who you've had the most fun voicing in the Transformers franchise over the past 32 years, whether it be Megatron, Chrome Dome, or anyone else in the franchise.
Well, it's actually a pretty easy question. I love doing Megatron. It's fun. He was in every show. He always had crazy, fun, good stuff to do. But I will tell you, coming along with Greg Berger and following him along as Sludge, it was such a goofy character. I'm nothing, Boo. I'm behind you. Sludge was kind of a gas to do, and doing it with Greg was a real kick. But no, I'd have to say Megatron, and then probably Soundwave. And Soundwave, when you do it, Bear, without a microphone, I am Soundwave. Not much there. When you do it on mic, and then you do it in a studio mic, and then they put that electrical sound on it, it was just so much fun. But going there and just milking it, each word just feels good. Just like the guy who's going, I love you, baby, I love you. Same thing. So Soundwave, I'd say Megatron, Soundwave, Sludge. And Rumble, too. I like doing Rumble. Hey, come on! What's not to like? Come on! Hey!
Thank you, Mr. Welker.
Thank you. Love those shirts. Thanks, guys.
I gotta ask with Rumble, was he based on anyone in particular or just New York?
I kind of had those kids, dead-end kids. Do you remember the long time ago?
The Greasers almost?
No, this was way before. This was back like in Kevin. Can you help me? When were the dead-end kids? That 30s? 30s. Notice I went to Kevin. He's gonna be so angry with me. When you come to me for the 30s? I'm in the 60s, the 70s, 80s. Look at me, I'm a young man. Anyway, but there were Leo Gorcey and Hunts Hall. But Leo Gorcey's kind of one of these guys. Hey, well, you guys don't say it, and then you take it into French, so you just bring it up again, yeah, kind of thing. And then Hunts Hall was like this shit. He was a fun guy. I almost used him for Ralph the God, but Ralph the God is an original character. I should run for Are you guys following that up here? Our presidents? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Let's be huge. Okay, now we have Thomas Kim.
Woo! You just answered my question.
Well, Thomas Kim, who's very excited. All right, first one there with the X.
How would you describe your relationship with Peter Cullen?
Who put you up to this? Well, Peter Cullen is so much fun to hang out with. We spend a great deal of time, he's probably told you this too, trying to make each other laugh, playing gags on each other. Working with him, he's what we call a mensch. He's such a good guy. He's a generous actor. So whenever there's a line that comes up, he will help you with it. A lot of times you'll see me off camera, the read lines for the other actor while the actor's on camera. Well, same thing sometimes in the voice world, where you got to do some pickup lines. You just do them by yourself. Peter goes, no, man. I'll put myself through it for you. But he really, he'll do anything, whether it's acting or on a friendship basis. He's a really, really good guy. And it's a lot of fun working with him.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
I have to suck up to Peter, you know, or else I'm out of it.
All right, so apparently this next crop of questions was submitted by Mike Jabba and the Job Squad. So it's a group question, so there's going to be a couple people come up. So Mike, do you want to assemble your team?
Yeah, can I get Goober, Dylan, and Malway up to the front, please?
Goober, 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 Goober. Hey, man.
Where's Mike? Brent! Yes!
Yes!
Are we gonna sing a chorus or something, or do a duet? We're just gonna read what's on the page and only what's on the page. Under no circumstances are you gonna deviate from what's on this page.
Mike's the boss.
All right, let's get this started. How has it been returning to the Megatron role in recent years? How has it been playing multiple versions of the same character after helping to build such an iconic version in G1? I think this is something you touched on a bit already.
Yeah, I think I have kind of touched on it earlier, but you know, when I first found out that there was a resurgence of the characters and Megatron was coming back, that they were going to do the features, it was really exciting because the G1 voice for Megatron was a total and complete original creation. A lot of the voices that you do, sometimes you'll pick up maybe a character like Red Skelton for Bullwinkle. Red Skelton was kind of the genesis, I think, for Bullwinkle. You know, oh, they two go there, and then it turned into Bullwinkle. So sometimes you use things that are kind of other pieces of people's creations for certain things. And then the other side of that is when a director directs you away from your base instinct. So when I looked at Megatron originally on a piece of paper and I saw the drawing, what came out was those things, the voices from the mini voices and all those things, trying to create that character. But what we ended up with was those voices that were original and that were from your gut. Because sometimes when a director moves you in a different direction, it still works, but it's not your initial feeling, and you don't feel sometimes like you totally created it from your personal DNA. So then as you move on to the different versions of the character, now you have another opportunity to add something new, but there's people kind of moving you around a little bit. So you have the pleasure of the first original child. And then as you move into the other ones, it's a different kind of pleasure because now you're trying to do what a director wants you to do, what the producer and the writers want you to do. So it's another form of acting. You're trying to capture what they want and then still throw in your stuff. So, and then for Galvatron in the feature, Michael pretty much said to me, hey Frank, what do you think? Well, that's the greatest thing you can say to an actor, because then, you know, he's going, well, give me some paintbrushes, I'm gonna go to town. And so there's different enjoyments and pleasures in all three versions, and it's been a fun trip, good ride, still going.
Next, who were your mentors when you started in show business? What were the most important things that they taught you?
Well, in the voice world, well, first I was going to say maybe in the stand-up comedy world, I went out on the road with some different groups, the Righteous Brothers, and Bobby Hatfield was like my brother. I mean, you know, he took me to the parties, he took me to the places to see where jazz and music was happening, and then I worked with a group called Brazil 66, Sergio Mendes, and their group taught me to drink just a little bit of brandy before you go on stage to clear the pipes. I thought, I'm 22 years old and brandy doesn't sound so bad. But it was strictly for medicinal purposes, and it was just a slight bit. And then the next thing is they said, you know, you should wear makeup And I said, okay, waiter! But they were, you know, so they were friends in show business, and they were teaching me things. And the reason to wear makeup is because we're playing huge coliseums and auditoriums, and they say, your face is so expressive, you need people to see you. So in the early days, it was these musicians that were teaching me secrets and things, and also about how to use the microphone with drums and boom, and all that kind of stuff. And then when I started getting into voices, as I said, I worked with Don Messick, the great Don Messick, Daz Butlers, Mel Blanc. Just, you know, those are some of the older folks. And then just my fellow actors, you know, are also inspiration and mentors.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Frank.
You are?
I'm Goober.
I wanted to hear you say it. How you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
Look at that hat.
I know. Got the rainbow thing going.
Right on. Okay, my question is, what's the most challenging monster or animal voice you've ever had to come up with?
Ooh. There's been a lot of challenges. Can I tell you two?
Yep.
He asked for one.
Just one.
I know, but the other guy had half a question. He didn't. So I have half a question to go. I'll put that, apply it towards this.
I'll allow it.
Okay. It's allowed.
You're deviating.
Okay, I'm deviating. It was actually one of the easiest, but it was one of the goofiest. And I'm trying to think of the picture. It was a long time ago. I think it may have been like my science project or something. I don't know. But there was a mouse that was underwater and was supposed to have a helmet on. And they said, we want the mouse to evoke and act and so on. And he's on the screen drowning, obviously. But, you know. So they had this little helmet on. They said, can you come up with some kind of sound for the mouse underwater? And I thought, well, now there's a challenge. It was just such a bizarre request. I just wanted to share with you, just so that you know some of the stuff they ask us to do. But the most difficult and also a lot of fun was in Species. Do you remember, what was her name in there?
Natasha Henstridge. Syl.
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 And Syl was actually a beautiful model from New York who comes down from space, and her job is to mate with the most eligible male human to interject the species from outer space into the human, you know. And it was very disgusting, I might add. But on the train, there were these big eggs that were hanging there, and they had to have the sound. So which was a lot of fun. And then you know, they hatch and they come out, but she's now around, and there was a scene that we worked on, and the director was great. When she, after she's mated with the male, then the way she disposes of the male is to stick her tongue through the back of his neck. You know, so they'll be kissing, and she's gorgeous, and then all of a sudden you hear this, blip, blip, and he says, Frank, we need a sound. I won't do that for you. But there was, and then she goes on, and the way that they dispose of her is she's burned alive, and with her babies. She's got some babies. So I had to do all of that screaming as a female creature from outer space. That was tough. I prefer the Barry White voice. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. And in that, screaming, though, there was a kind of a little tip I'll give you, is using some different sounds that weren't quite so painful, but then they take that and layer it over. I can't do it. It's disgusting. But it was a tough one. Love talking about myself. It's just...
Hello, sir. I'm not sure how I got up here, but I'm so happy to see you.
I can say the same. I have no idea what I'm doing here.
Apparently, my question is as follows. There have been numerous revivals of many properties you worked on in the beginning, such as Transformers, Scooby-Doo, Ghostbusters. How has it felt to see new life come into these brands again?
Excellent question. You wrote that, didn't you?
I'll take the blame for it.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. You know, it's amazing to see all of these, so many of these former shows coming back now as features. And there was even, I heard a couple years back, a Scooby-Doo play that was all across the UK. I think that they actually toured with a Scooby-Doo group on stage, which I'd love to see that, but so the fact that that show has gone from movies to games to, it just goes on and on. But it's actually never gone away. The other shows that have kind of disappeared and then come back, it's remarkable and really nice for those of us who worked a lot in the earlier days to see the stuff come back to give us an opportunity to perform, and to see what kind of new life these shows can take and where they're going to go with them and how the fans react. Once again, I want to thank all of you who've supported me over the years as Megatron. You don't know what a great difference you've made, and I appreciate it very, very much.
Mr. Welker?
Hello.
I don't know how I got up here either, as you could obviously tell from my reaction earlier. So my question is, what has it been like to see the animation and voiceover industry change over the last 50 years, and where do you think it's going?
Well, the CGI stuff, I think the example that I can see most apparently is the CGI that we did in Transformers Prime. In that format, the subtleties of the mouth movement, now you can start to see real words happening where, in animation, in the flat animation that we did in G1 or any of the old shows, we'd come back and loop for things that they wanted to change. Like if you couldn't say Tide detergent, obviously, then you'd come back and they, instead of Fred going, or Megatron saying, Tide detergent, you go like, get him! It just was so easy because everything fit, so in doing looping sessions, it was a breeze, no problem. I'm out of here. But now when you do get into the subtleties of CGI, performance-wise, now you can really take more time. And when you're in these scenes, dialogue becomes really important. In G1, everything works, but it was a pretty high level and a lot of action, a lot of things going on the full time. Now, in the newer CGI stuff, you can slow that all down and really get some evil juices. I will take my time. When I want, I will destroy you. Where before it's, I'm gonna take you out and try to destroy you. So I really think that that's kind of a nice thing for acting, is a nice place to go. Plus the color and the places you can go now with this. And I don't know, maybe you guys can tell me, but what Disney did with the Jungle Book, that is just phenomenal. It just looks so real, those characters. And I don't know what kind of technology that is, if that's a CGI combination of things, but it's where it's going, I think, is probably that direction. And I think for voices, it's just only better for us. And I don't know why you're up here, but I'm glad you came.
I am actually too.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, our time is drawing to a close. That was a good question to end on. From the bottom of my heart, and every single one of these people here, thank you for your contributions to not only Transformers, but every piece of media you've been involved with. You have shaped numerous childhoods, and you continue to entertain us to this day. Thank you. We appreciate you. I want you to give Frank Welker a standing ovation.